Good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding sixth reading in a portion of Shalach. We're holding in the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 15, verse number 17. And God spoke to Moshe saying, Tabo b'nei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, v'amayta aleim, and tell them, V'yechem alaretz, when you come into the land, Ashani maybe eschem shama, which I'm bringing you there. Now she says, when you come into the land, this coming differs from all other comings in the Torah. But with the others, the Torah says when you will come into the land in the singular. Over here, kisavayu, kisavai. Therefore, all of them learn a particular law from each other. Since in the other cases, the Torah specifies that it applies only after the inheritance has settled the land, which took 14 years. It is therefore applies to all cases. But here, the term is bevayachem, it's plural. As soon as they arrive there, and ate from the bread, they are obligated to accept a portion of truma, this challah, which is called challah. When you come to eat the bread of the land, tarimu truma lavaya, you should take off a gift to the Eibishter. Reishis arishei seichem, the first portion of your dough, challah, shall separate tarimu challah from your dough. Challah tarimu truma, you should separate a loaf of ketruma's good and kain tirimais. In the case of the gift of the threshing floor, shows you shall separate from your challah, from your dough. Now she says, when you're kneading an amount of dough, you're accustomed to kneading in the desert. And how much is that? The measure is an omer. The omer per head. You shall separate from its portion. Means at least, I think today, three something like over 3 pounds. Say that you eat, before you eat, the first portion from it, you shall separate one loaf as a gift for the sake of the Lord. Challah, the word challah is a sort of a cake, a round loaf bread, what we call today challah. Tonight, we're having challah. Trumas hagayrim. So in general, which is no amount specified, but unlike the gift taken for the tithe given to the Levites, for which an amount is specified. However, the sages did specify an amount from the household, the 1/24th of the dough, and for the baker, 1/48th of the dough. For the first portion of your dough, you shall give to God. This is a truma for your generations. So now she's bothered. Why is this verse stated there? We said it already. It's not a reverse. Do you have verse 20? Because it says the first portion of your dough in verse 20. From this, I understand the first one of the dough. Hence, the Torah tells us from the first part of the dough, but not from the entire dough. Since no amount is specified in the dough portion, challah, it says you shall give, meaning a gift should be an amount that can be considered a gift. That's what we still do. We still today do challah. When a woman makes challah, Shabbos, whatever, she bakes a certain amount. She makes a certain amount of dough. She has to do the mitzvah of challah. She does the mitzvah of challah. And if you should err and not fulfill all these commandments, which God spoke to Moshe. Now she says idolatry was included in all the commandments, for which the community brings a bull as a sin offering. It was the only time we brought a bull was a for Avodah Zarah. If they did it by mistake, Avodah Zarah, like on Yom Kippur, they would bring a bull. Or the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen that made a mistake, did a bull. Brings a bull as a sin offering. But here, the Torah removes it from the category to apply it to the law of a bull for a burnt offering and a he-goat for a sin offering. So again, Rashi said the scripture speaking by idolatry over here, or perhaps only to the one who are the other commandments. How you know only by idolatry? Therefore, Torah states of all the commandments, one commandment which is equivalent to all the commandments. Thus, as someone who transgressions all the commandments, casts the yoke of heaven, violates the covenant, and acts brazenly against the Torah, so one who transgresses this commandment, the commandment of Avodah Zarah, God forbid, casts off the yoke and violates the covenant, acts brazenly. Which commandment is that? That one commandment is as if you broke all commandments, and that is Avodah Zarah. If a person worships idol, God forbid, even does any other mitzvah, it's as if he cast off the entire Torah. Hashadiba Hashem al Moshe, the first commandment. Rashi says, "I am God, your God. You must not have any other gods." We all heard it from God Himself, as it said. Once did God speak, but we heard them twice. The two first commandments. Verse 23, all that the Lord has commanded you through Moshe Rabbeinu, for the day that God commanded the Jewish people, it's for you and for your generations. This teaches us, Rashi says, that anyone who acknowledges the truth of idolatry is considered as if he has denied the entire Torah and all the prophecies of the prophets, as it says, from the day which the Lord commanded you, and from then and on. So we have to realize the negative law of idolatry. Verse 24. And if it because of the eyes of the congregation, it was committed inadvertently. That's why it comes to Avodah Zarah, going to the carbon par ben bakar. He brings a bull, as a burnt offering, as a pleasing aroma, Hashem, to God. And then you have to bring with this carbon, you have to bring a meal offering. And you have to bring its libations. A mishpat, as the law has been stated. Then you have to bring another he-goat, lachatas. Now she says, what is the meaning? Because the eyes of the congregation is because the leaders, literally the eyes of the congregation, this transgression was committed inadvertently. For the leaders, made a mistake, the Sanhedrin, and ruled concerning one form of service that it was permitted to worship an idol in this manner. They made a mistake, but they thought that there was not an aveda to do. If this ever happened, I don't know. But if it would happen, that means that the entire congregation erred. Even though, so when the Sanhedrin makes a mistake, it's as if the entire congregation made a mistake. The chatos, it's interesting that over here the word chatos is missing. The word chatos is missing an aleph over here, because this sin offering is different than other sin offerings. In the case of all other sin offerings mentioned in Torah, which were brought together with a burnt offering, the sin offering preceded the burnt offering. As it says, it shall make the second one a burnt offering. But this one, the burnt offering precedes the sin offering. So that's why it's different kind of a chatos. This chatos of the sin of a congregation is different than a regular sin offering. The Kohen will bring atonement on the entire congregation of the Jewish people. And they'll be forgiven. It's a mistake. When they brought the sacrifice, Isha Hashem, which is a fire to God, and they also brought the sin offering. Now Hashem, before God, on their mistake. Now she says, that's what we referred to the message in verse number 24, namely the bull. So that's the carbon. The carbon, there's two carbonas here. One is a carbon. They brought a sacrifice to God, which is the bull. And then they brought a chatas, a sin offering, which was the goat. And this will bring forgiveness on the entire Jewish congregation. And to the convert that lives in their midst, because self-understood, the nation did it by mistake. They followed the Sanhedrin, they followed the high court, and the high court made a mistake, which brought about that the entire Jewish people did a mistake. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. Again, the Alter Rebbe continues this concept, the concept that the way the Eibishter, the way God comes into the world, the essence of God that comes into the world is a paradox, because as he's within finite, he's infinite. So the Eibishter creates a concept that the Eibishter, God himself, can have this concept, this paradox, because he cannot say he's finite, he cannot be infinite, and he can't say he's infinite, he's not finite. So therefore, by the Eibishter, Ani Hashem Leishanisi, I, God, I'm higher than infinite and finite. And therefore, actually, both of them are with him. Because even finite, when we say something is finite, that means it's not infinite. I mean, something is infinite. Even if you still call God infinite, that already is a name, and that already defines him. That he's infinite, then he's not finite. The Eibush is above these two things. And therefore, God, as he's finite, he's infinite. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. You have to understand this. It's hard for a human being to understand this paradox, really, to the essence. We can just say it. Now, although God transcends space and time, nevertheless, he nevertheless is found below within time and space. Because to say God is not in time and space, you're limiting God. And God is above any concept. So the Eibishter, the infinite, and the finite are all the same. So even as space and time, meaning the dimension that constitutes the world, exist in their own eyes as an independent entity, but the Eibishter is here. The Eibishter is here. God is here. Whether the people feel, whether the physical feels as its own entity, has nothing to do with God. The God, the physical, and the spiritual are all the same. God is found in the spiritual, and even that's higher than the spiritual, and the physical, all at the same time, all equally. The Hainu, which means the Eibishter unites with the attribute of Malchus. And the Kabbalistic terminology would be God unites with Malchus, which the space and time is derived api Kabbalah from the world, from the attribute of kingship. So this refers to Malchus after it's ascended through the various Tzimtzumim. However, even this level of Malchus is united with God. So even when Malchus comes into this world, not talking Malchus Atzilus. Even if it's not Malchus Atzilus, even we're talking about the Malchus, the way Malchus comes into the world of action, the Eibishter is still part of Malchus. The Eibishter is still, the essence of God is still in every aspect of this world. So thus God, who transcends time and space, is also found within time and space. The reason created beings are unable to receive him is that Malchus conceals his presence. That's the point. It conceals his presence to humanity. So humanity cannot perceive it. Thus, regarding themselves as possessing the independent existence subject to limitations of the divisions of time and space. The truth is, we see that we all believe that we have a godly soul, but we don't perceive our godly soul. We know that we have a godly soul, and it's a concept of knowledge. The point is to feel your godly soul. But we've seen, since the corporality of the body, we don't feel the godly soul. We know that in essence, we know that it's true. Without your soul, you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot think. When the soul leaves the body, You cannot, you don't have any kind of motion and physical reality. But the physicality is so strong that none of us perceive our soul. We understand the soul. We believe in the concept of the soul. We know there's a soul because we're living. But we don't perceive our life. We think that our physical life it has its own independence. Seemingly without a soul, we have a physical life. But that's not true. And we know that that's not true. Because we realize if God forbid our soul leaves our body, the body ceases to exist, ceases to function. So really the true functionality of our body is our soul, even though we don't perceive it. That's why this pasuk says, "Mipsari." Really, you don't have to go far to have a comprehension in this concept. Even though you don't perceive it, you don't see it. That's why we pray for a day. We pray for the concept of Riyah that we'll be able to see it in a physical way. But right now we don't see it in a physical. We see it in the imagination of our mind, in the understanding of our mind, which is the beauty of Seichel that gives us the capability to understand abstract concepts. It's very hard to us to see abstract concepts. We only can see the physical things that we see. And that is the concept of Yichudi Tata. Now you understand what Yichudi Tata is. Yichudi Tata is a perception that is not face-to-face perception. It's not a concept of Riyah. It's not something that I can see straight and perceive it in a straight way. Because it's impossible for me at this present time to perceive this concept. So I perceive it and I believe in it and I comprehend it and I can talk about it and I can learn about it. This is the lower level of unity. In this state, created beings are not totally nullified. That's why we have a yesh. That's why we have ego and we have struggles and we sometimes have better days, some tougher days. Why? Because we don't see it. And since we don't see it in an open way, not only we don't see it, we don't really comprehend this concept in a clear fashion, like we comprehend the physical things in our lives. So therefore, we're not bottled. We have ego. We have our rationalization. We rationalize according to how much we want to rationalize this faith and how much we want to incorporate this faith in God and our spiritual soul as much as each one of us wants to do. The truth is, once the godly soul is revealed within us and godliness we'll all be the same. We'll all be the same. Because once the truth is revealed, the truth is there. Truth is there for all of us the same. Right now, every person has their own limited truth. Every person has their limitations. How much they're willing to believe, how much they're not willing to believe, how much they're willing to incorporate in their lives Yiddishkeit, godliness. Why? Because it's all Yichudi Tata. It's all the unity from below. And once we're talking about the unity through our personal life, then every person is different. And every person's faith is different. Because it's Yichudi Tata. It's an unbelievable concept because the Eibishter ultimately wanted that every person should come to that realization on his own. And therefore, every person is going to take it differently. Thus, disregarding themselves as possessing independent existence subject to limitations of the visions of time and space. And this state is created being is not totally nullified. The attribute to the source, the attribute of Malchus, and so much it allows them to be aware of their own existence. This is the Shliv Avnei Ba'avnes Baruch Hu. This is what I mentioned before, the intertwining of the letters of the name of Havaya, which is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is the tetragram, which is the concept of above time and space, with the letters of Adnut, which we don't say Havaya, we don't say God's name, we say Adonai, which is Adnut, which is Malchus. This is the interchange. The interchange between Yichudi love and Yichudi Tata. Really, we should all reach up to the level of Havaya, that we on Yudke Vavke, that we understand the unity, we perceive it, we can see it. But right now, it needs to be a little bit interchanged. And that interchange our Malchus, so we understand the concept of kingship. That's why it's important to understand the concept of kingship, that the Eibush is a Melech, Shem Melech, but really Hashem Melech. Hashem Melech, Yudke Vavke is Melech, but we're stuck literally in the Melech. We're stuck in the analogy of a king. The Eibush is not a king. But the Eibush is a king to us in the analogy of Yehuda Tata. The Eibush is a king. We need to understand the analogy. Hopefully, you don't get stuck in the kingship. We go to the concept of Avaya, the Yudke Vavke, the name of God's name, the name of God, the way God is above time and space. We really comprehend that. But we cannot have that comprehension totally. We only can have, because we're independent existence. As long as there's an independent existence within our existence, we automatically cannot comprehend the essence. Because it's not possible, as we learned in Chassidus, that the Eibishter doesn't connect us only to something that's nullified to him. And but ultimately, a melech b'layam, there's no king without a nation. So the Eibishter, God wants this nation as it is, even that's not bottled to him, totally nullified to him, to nevertheless do some aspect of unity with him. Each person to their capacity. And that's why it says Hashem Melech. It's a personal malchus. It's not a plural. It's not a concept of a king. Everybody crowns the Eibishter upon him personally. Because when it comes to Yehuda Data, when it comes to the lower level of unity, every person needs to do it on their own. Because every person will understand this concept, will have a different comprehension, which will bring about a Yehuda Data, which will bring about this unity through their comprehension, through their understanding. Every person will do it differently. But they have to realize, again, they always should never forget that they're really trying to reach the higher level of Yehudi Allah, which is they're really, so even when they say the word Adnut, or they say the word Melech, they really mean Havaya Melech. They really mean Yudke Vavke. They really mean the Yehudi Allah, they really mean the essence of God, which is above time and space. In this instance, the divine name Havaya is intertwined with the vested with the name Adnut, meaning Havaya is concealed and submerged, while Adnut is revealed and prominent, while allowing creation, time and space. The Eibishter wanted us to have a yichud with God and never lose time and space, not to lose our time and space. So while we're still in time and space, we should still have a unity with HaKadosh Baruch. That means that we should believe that even within time and space, even within this world, that I have an ego, I have a Yetzer Hara, etc., and I have my physicality, his essence being, which is called Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite one, completely fills the whole world, temporarily and spatially. Mamish is manamag, really. It's not a concept of philosophy, but God, Yud-Ke, Vav-Ke, infinity, God, the way in his glory and his essence is right over here in this physical world. Because in the heavens above and the earth below, sitting into four corners, everything is equal, permeated with Ein Sof of God. He's in this lowest world as he's above in the most spiritual worlds. Because everything, including both heavens and earth, is ultimately also a space. Which is because even the spiritual world, all these spiritual worlds that Kabbalah talks about, is also to God space and time. Because God is infinite, ultimately. He's above even the concept of spirituality. And therefore, everything is bottled to the Eibishter. Which God gives existence to everything. Which is through the attribute of kingship. Which is totally united with God. So in relation to Ein Sof, which totally transcends time and space, there exists no difference between the heavens and the earth. God is found equally in the heavens and the earth. This means say, what is time and space? not totally nullified, actually. Midas Malchusi, Midas Atzimtzim. They are not nullified because God's attribute of Malchus is the attribute of Tzimtzum and concealment. Bottled that the existence of time and space should not be completely nullified, and there'll be no dimension of time and space whatsoever, even in lower worlds. So, meaning it's only because of the concealment that affects the malchus of time and space should exist for the created beings. And that completes the Tanya of the day. And friends, today is the 22nd day of the month, which is chapter 106 to 107, chapter 106 to 107. If you do those two chapters, you would do the chitas of the day. I wish you all a wonderful day, a very happy day. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos, have a beautiful Shabbos, and Amid Shem. I hope that you continue learning chitas on Shabbos by yourself. And Amid Shem, we'll see you all Sunday morning, 8:30, 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn the chitas of the day. Have a beautiful and wonderful Shabbos. God bless you all. Shabbos Mevarchim. This Shabbos, the Eibusha blesses the new month of Tammuz. We should all be blessed with a wonderful, happy, and healthy Shabbos, and a wonderful, happy, healthy week, and a wonderful, happy, and healthy month. God bless you. Shabbat.